All right, today we're going to dive deep into the mind of the one and only Carl Jung and explore his pretty radical vision for therapy. This isn't just about fixing problems, it's about a journey to find your true self. So let's just start with a really fundamental question that kind of redefines the whole goal. Is therapy just a repair shop for your mind? You know, a place you go to fix what's broken? Or is it something way deeper? For Jung, the answer was crystal clear. Therapy is this profound journey of discovering who you are truly meant to be. So how are we going to tackle this? Well, Jung actually gave us a roadmap, and we're going to follow it. We'll start by looking beyond the symptom, and then we'll walk through his 4 distinct stages: confession, elucidation, education, and finally, the ultimate goal, transformation. This is the whole arc, the complete picture of the journey as Jung saw it. What's so fascinating about Jung is that he didn't see the big psychological theories of his day, Freud's, Adler's, and his own, as being in conflict. Not at all. He saw them as addressing different layers of who we are. He was arguing for a purpose to therapy that was much deeper, something that grows and evolves right along with us. Now, this is super important to get right off the bat. For Jung, these 4 stages, they aren't some rigid step-by-step ladder you have to climb. Think of them more like evolving layers of psychological work. As he put it, they're all just different aspects of one and the same problem. So one person might find everything they need in that first stage, while someone else might need to travel all the way through to the 4th to feel whole. Okay, so where does this whole journey begin? It starts at the most basic, most human level imaginable, with a need that existed long before psychology was even a thing: the simple need to confess. The process kicks off simply by sharing what's been kept hidden. Jung saw a really clear parallel to the religious confessional, right? That sacred space created just for unburdening the soul. It is the absolute essential first step, bringing what's been lurking in the dark out into the light of a shared human connection. And this quote from Jung? Wow, it just hits so hard. He's showing us the real price we pay for keeping things buried. Secrets aren't just a burden. He calls them a psychic poison. Why? Because they isolate us. They cut us off from our community, from feeling like we belong. Confession, then, is the antidote. It's what breaks that isolation and lets us back into the world. But just getting secrets off your chest often isn't enough. Once it's all out on the table, the next phase has to begin, figuring out where it all came from. And this is the stage of elucidation. This is where the real detective work kicks in. Think of it like a psychological whodunit. Jung actually gives a lot of credit to Sigmund Freud for pioneering this stage, the whole method of interpretation. It's all about sifting through the evidence from the confession to find the origins, to really understand the why behind all the pain. It's a move from just feeling better to actually understanding the cause. Now, back in Jung's day, there were 2 major players trying to answer that why question. You had Freud, whose method was all about tracing neurosis back to repressed desires, what he called the pleasure principle, and then you had Adler, who focused on the total opposite, the will to power, that drive to overcome feelings of inferiority. For Jung, they weren't wrong, they were just different sides of the same coin. He saw them as reflecting what St. Augustine called the 2 great human sins: lust and pride. So you've confessed, you've figured out the why, but then comes the big practical question: now what do I do? Just understanding your past doesn't automatically change your future. And that brings us to the 3rd stage, education. And this is really where Alfred Adler's contribution was so important. Look, having an insight is great, but it doesn't just magically change your behavior. As Jung points out, a neurosis builds up these obstinate habits, and the only way to beat old habits is to build new ones. This stage is all about practical application, educating the patient as a social being, helping them take their new self-knowledge and use it to build a normal, functioning life out in the real world. For a lot of people, especially when they're young, this is the goal: a happy, normal, well-adjusted life. And therapy helps them get there. But Jung noticed this incredible paradox, especially with his patients who were in the second half of their lives. All their success, the career, the family, that so-called normal life, it wasn't the cure, it was the source of their suffering. They were totally haunted by what he called the senselessness and aimlessness of their lives. And that crisis, that feeling of, is this all there is? That calls for something deeper. And this brings us to stage 4, the real heart of Jung's own unique contribution, the pinnacle of his vision, the stage of transformation. So, what is transformation? Well, it's not about becoming normal or fixing yourself into some new person. No, it's about something way more radical and profound. Individuation. It's the process of courageously becoming who you actually are. Jung said that if a cure means you have to sacrifice too much of your core personality, then the goal itself has to change. Sometimes, healing means accepting your neuroses, finding its meaning, and weaving it into a bigger, more authentic version of yourself. To really get this, you have to understand Jung's idea of the two halves of life. Think of it like the morning and the afternoon of your existence. In life's morning, the first half, our job is to expand outward, build a career, start a family, find our place in the world. And the neurosis then is a fear of life. But in life's afternoon, the second half, the work shifts inward. It's all about finding meaning, about self-realization. And the neurosis changes too. It becomes a fear of death, a fear of letting go of a youth that's already passed. And when you get to this stage, everything about the therapy room changes. The therapist can't be the expert on a high horse anymore. They have to ditch any pretense of having all the answers. They're no longer this detached doctor treating a patient. They become a fellow traveler, a participant in a shared journey of discovery. So, what does this new relationship actually look like? Well, it's what Jung called a dialectical procedure. It's a real dialogue where two people compare notes. The therapist has to throw out all their fixed ideas and rigid techniques. Because when two unique personalities really meet, they both change. It becomes this deeply human, collaborative dance, where the patient's own individual path is respected as the ultimate authority. Okay, so after all of this, after confession, elucidation, education, and transformation, what's the actual point? What's the real goal here? Is it to be happy all the time? To get rid of all your problems? For Jung, the answer to that was a huge no. And this is Jung's mic drop moment. The whole point of psychotherapy, he says, is not to chase some impossible fairy tale state of happiness. Life is suffering. That's just part of the deal. So the real goal is to develop steadfastness, to build the strength and the philosophical patience to face that suffering head on. To find meaning not by running away from life's problems, but by truly meeting them. So in the end, Jung's vision completely flips the script on what therapy is for. It's not a tool to change you into someone else. It's a journey to help you become the person you were always meant to be. And that leaves all of us with one big question to ponder. Who are you, in the deepest sense, truly becoming?